All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at the absolute ultimate apex predator, the dinosaur that has literally captured our imaginations for over a century, the Tyrannosaurus rex. But honestly, forget the movie monsters you grew up with. We are going to count down 10 mind-blowing, scientifically grounded facts that are going to completely rewrite your understanding of the tyrant lizard king. Think you know the T-Rex? Well, from its classic debut on the silver screen way back in 1918's The Ghost of Slumber Mountain, all the way to that utterly terrifying roar in Jurassic Park, Hollywood has fundamentally shaped how we picture this animal. But as paleontology has advanced, moving from those early bone hunting days in the 1900s to modern biomechanics and high-tech CT scans, we've realized that a lot of what pop culture taught us is, well, just plain wrong. So in this explainer, we're stripping away all that Hollywood fiction. We are looking strictly at the actual fossil record. I've distilled the very latest research down to a top 10 countdown of facts that will absolutely shatter those old myths. We're going to reveal a creature far more fascinating, complex, and frankly, terrifying than anything a screenwriter could ever invent. Let's get into it. Starting off with Section 1, the numbers of a king. Fact number 1, 2.5 billion. Sounds crazy, right? But a 2021 ecological modeling study by Charles Marshall and his colleagues actually calculated that over the million-plus years the T-Rex existed before the asteroid hit, roughly 2.5 billion of them walked the Earth. At any given moment, there were around 20,000 adult T-Rexes alive just across North America. So the really crucial takeaway here is that while their fossils are incredibly rare for us to find today, these predators were once a very regular, completely dominant presence across a massive range. Moving to fact number 2. For the longest time, we thought the T-Rex lived fast and died young, basically reaching full size around 25 years old. But actually, scratch that. Brand new 2026 research analyzing the growth rings in 17 different specimens has completely shifted that timeline. They actually kept growing well into their late 30s. They spent a huge chunk of their lives as lighter, much more agile teenagers, literally packing on hundreds to over 1,000 pounds a year between ages 14 and 29, before they finally bulked up into those massive 40-foot, multi-ton adults we all recognize. Okay, moving right along to Section 2, bite, sight, and lips. Fact number 3. Get this, an adult T-Rex had a staggering bite force exceeding 12,000 pounds. To put that into perspective for you, a lion is at about 650 pounds of force, and a modern saltwater crocodile hits around 3,700. The T-Rex didn't just slice through flesh. Its foot-long, deeply rooted teeth acted like literal railroad spikes. They were purpose-built to pulverize and swallow solid bone. And we know this for sure because we even have fossilized dung containing shattered bone fragments to prove it. And that brings us to fact number 4, which finally puts an end to a major debate. You know that classic image of the T-Rex with its teeth permanently bared, kind of like a crocodile? Well, a 2023 paper in Science by Cullen proved that dinosaur enamel actually breaks down when it's exposed to open air. So to keep those massive bone-crushing teeth intact, they needed to be sealed in moisture. This means the T-Rex almost certainly had scaly lips covering its teeth when its mouth was closed, looking much more like a modern iguana. Fact number 5 completely destroys that old, if you don't move, it can't see you myth. Seriously, don't try that. CT scans of T-Rex skulls show incredibly large areas dedicated entirely to processing smell and vision. Their eyes were angled perfectly forward, giving them overlapping binocular vision. That gave them extreme depth perception that rivaled modern birds of prey like hawks. Combined with an olfactory system that could smell a carcass from literally miles away, this was a highly aware predator that tracked you long before you ever saw it. Next up, Section 3, built for power, not speed. Fact number 6. We've all seen the movies where T-Rex chases down a speeding Jeep in high gear, but biomechanics tell us a completely different story. If an 8 to 10-ton animal tried to sprint at 30 miles an hour, a single trip or fall would literally shatter its own leg bones. Computer simulations max out their safe speed at somewhere between 10 and 20 miles per hour. So they weren't these high-speed pursuit sprinters. They were incredibly fast, hyper-efficient walkers who relied heavily on devastating ambush tactics. Fact number 7 brings us to their posture. When the American Museum of Natural History unveiled the very first T-Rex mount back in 1915, they posed it standing upright, like a giant kangaroo, dragging its tail on the ground. It wasn't until the 1990s that museums finally corrected this. The T-Rex actually held its body perfectly horizontally, built kind of like a seesaw. That massive, heavily muscled tail wasn't dragging behind at all.
It was held stiffly in the air as an absolutely vital counterbalance to its gigantic, extremely heavy skull.
Which leads us right into Section 4, Skin, Scales, and Survival. Fact number 8 tackles the great feather debate. We know that earlier Tyrannosaur relatives, like Eutyrannus, had downy feathers, so it made sense to ask, did the T-Rex? Well, recent skin impression fossils taken from various parts of adult T-Rex bodies show very distinct scaly textures. So while the juveniles might have hatched with a little coat of fuzz for insulation, the current evidence points to fully grown adults being mostly, if not entirely covered, in tough scales. Fact number 9 shows us that the late Cretaceous was definitely not a gentle place. I mean, the T-Rex lived an incredibly violent life. We literally have T-Rex skeletons with healed stab wounds from Triceratops horns. We see deep, bone-crushing bite marks on T-Rex skulls that perfectly match the teeth of other T-Rexes, proving they engaged in some brutal turf wars. And yes, bite marks on certain bones confirm that in desperate times, the T-Rex even resorted to cannibalism. And finally, Section 5, the forgotten rival. So, for decades, there's been this massive debate over a smaller Tyrannosaur fossil found at the famous dueling dinosaurs site in Montana. But a stunning 2025 open-access publication in Nature by Dr. Lindsay Zano and James Napoli analyzed the bone growth rings, the spinal fusion, and the overall anatomy of this fossil. And they definitively proved that this smaller dinosaur was roughly 20 years old. It was a fully grown adult, not a baby T-Rex. And you know, this aligns perfectly with broader phylogenetic studies. Research like the incredible work coming out of the University of Edinburgh shows that the Tyrannosaurid family tree was actually highly diverse, evolving piecemeal over 100 million years. This ecosystem was incredibly rich, and the T-Rex was part of a very complex web of predators, not just some standalone monolith. Which brings us to our final ultimate fact, number 10. The T-Rex did not rule alone. That smaller fossil we just talked about, it belonged to an entirely distinct species called Nanotyrannus. For years, scientists mistakenly looked at Nanotyrannus bones and just assumed they were looking at teenage T-Rexes. But now we know for a fact that during the final million years of the dinosaurs, the giant, bone-crushing T-Rex actually shared its throne with a leaner, swifter, and much more agile rival predator. So from scaly lips to horizontal balance, and from massive teenage growth spurts to sharing the ecosystem with a forgotten rival, the T-Rex we know today is radically different from the one we imagined just a century ago. The fossil record is constantly evolving as we apply new technologies and unearth new bones. So it really makes you wonder, what other hidden dinosaur secrets are waiting just beneath the surface to be uncovered? Keep questioning what you think you know, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.